Every morning, this dog would wake up his young master in the exact same way. The servants are long accustomed to its over-the-top attitude. Nothing it does really surprises them anymore. The moment they heard the commotion heading toward the kitchen, the servants knew trouble was coming. They scrambled to hide every bit of food, making sure nothing was left out in the open. Just as they tucked away the last dish, in waltzed Buck, the notorious troublemaker. But his nose was simply too sharp. He sniffed out the food hidden in the cabinet in no time. Then he put on his best pitiful face, gazing at the servants with pleading eyes. But they had seen through his tricks long ago and promptly shooed him out of the kitchen. The reason Buck could act so bold was simple: he had a wealthy owner who spoiled him rotten. Watching his mischievous dog cause yet another scene, the master sighed and dragged him out of the room, shutting the door before Buck could sneak back in. But that wasn't about to stop Buck. He headed for the window, his usual way in. This time, however, the master cut him off, begging him to behave just for one day. It was his birthday after all. But Buck had no intention of behaving. His eyes locked onto the birthday feast the servants had prepared. Staring at all that delicious food, he couldn't help but lick his lips. Before long, Buck sauntered over to his master with a chicken leg dangling from his mouth. One look at it, and the master knew something was terribly wrong. Sure enough, when he rushed to the dining room, the table was a complete disaster. The master let out a helpless sigh, then pried the last remaining chicken leg from Buck's jaws. That night, as punishment, Buck was made to sleep outside. But what the master never could have imagined was that this decision would mean he'd never see Buck again. Hidden in the nearby woods, dog thieves had been waiting for just such an opportunity. They lured Buck into a crate with food, then slammed the door shut. Buck tried desperately to escape, but no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free. The dog traders loaded Buck onto a train and shipped him off to the frozen wilderness of the north. There, he was thrown into a cage, put on display for buyers. Thanks to his powerful build, a man quickly took interest and purchased him. And so Buck found himself with his second owner, a husband and wife who worked as mail carriers. At first, the wife didn't care for Buck. She figured he was nothing more than a pampered pet, unfit for pulling a sled. Little did she know, Buck would one day save their lives more than once. A few days later, Buck began his new job. At first, he hated the harness strapped around him and struggled to adjust to the work. Every time he tried to pull the sled, he'd trip over himself. Just when he started keeping up with the team, a wild rabbit caught his eye. He bolted after it, veering off course and dragging the entire sled team down a slope. The other dogs grumbled and complained about Buck, and he hung his head in shame. But the husband didn't scold him. Instead, he encouraged Buck not to give up and reminded him of the importance of teamwork. With that support, Buck gradually found his place on the team. Even though the lead dog, a husky, often gave him a hard time, things went smoothly enough. They always managed to deliver the mail to town on time. By evening, Buck's first day on the job was done. But when dinner was served, the husky threw his weight around as the leader, snatching the food right out of a golden retriever's mouth. The golden retriever lowered his head, defeated. When Buck saw this, he did something unexpected. He gave up his own dinner to the golden retriever, then quietly walked away. That single act of kindness changed how the other dogs saw him. As the days passed, Buck transformed from a clueless rookie into a seasoned veteran. He took his work seriously and made real efforts to keep the team united. One day, during a break, the husky claimed the only water source for himself, snarling and chasing off any dog that dared approach. But the newcomer Buck turns out to be a different story. Buck walks onto a nearby patch of ice, stomps hard and cracks open a fresh hole. The moment the dogs see water welling up, they rush toward him. Instead of chasing them off, Buck generously shares the water with everyone. Watching this, the husky grows furious. Buck's kindness threatens its authority. As the lead dog of the sled team, the husky believes that as long as it runs fast enough, it will always enjoy the owner's favor. But an accident shatters that illusion. While the woman leads ahead to scout the path, the ice suddenly breaks, plunging her into the freezing lake. Her husband sprints toward her, but she sinks before he can reach her. At that critical moment, Buck charges forward without hesitation, dives into the icy water, and pushes her upward with all his strength. He rams the ice repeatedly until he finally manages to lift her out. Exhausted, Buck watches her escape danger, then loses all strength and sinks into the darkness below. The man, frantic, kneels on the ice and screams Buck's name. Hearing movement beneath, he grabs his knife and hacks at the ice, only for the blade to snap. The surface is simply too thick. Despair takes over as he presses against the ice, unwilling to lose the loyal Buck. Just then, a wooden stick appears beside him. He grabs it and starts smashing again, but something feels off. He turns and realizes the stick was handed to him by Buck himself, who managed to surface. Nearby, the husky watches its owner fuss over Buck, jealousy simmering. That night, the woman rewards Buck with an extra chicken leg and thanks him sincerely. The husky notices again, bitterness growing. It decides the time has come to settle things with Buck. Later, while the dogs chase a snow hare, Buck manages to catch it only to release it unharmed. But the hare barely hops away before the husky lunges out and kills it in one bite, issuing a direct challenge. The husky approaches Buck. A pack can have only one leader. Buck, raised as a pampered city dog, has never fought before and is frightened. The husky attacks first. Despite Buck's larger size, his inexperience shows he's thrown to the ground again and again, unable to rise. The husky mocks him triumphantly. Then the husky turns to intimidate the rest of the pack, hoping to reassert dominance. But the dogs have had enough. They bark at Buck, urging him to get up. And in the next moment, Buck does. He bares his teeth, no longer afraid, and charges at the husky. This time he wins. The pack celebrates Buck's victory, knowing it no longer has a place here. The husky slinks away with its tail between its legs. The next morning, with the team lacking a lead dog, Buck naturally steps to the front. But the man thinks Buck lacks experience. Buck protests, but the man drags him to the back anyway and brings out an older, seasoned dog to lead. Yet the old dog, glancing at the unhappy Buck, refuses to put on the harness. Not wanting to anger either the owner or Buck, it simply collapses on the ground in stubborn refusal. Helpless, the man finally gives the position to Buck. Because of the delay, the man expects they'll arrive late, but he's surprised to find the team now united under Buck running faster than ever. At this pace, they'll reach town 2 days early. Excited, the man laughs loudly, too loudly. His voice triggers an avalanche. He orders Buck to turn left, but Buck, assessing the falling snow, knows it's already too late. Instead of obeying, he charges straight into the heart of the avalanche path.
Are you crazy?
With Buck leading, the team miraculously escapes danger and indeed reaches town 2 days ahead of schedule, though in a rather chaotic fashion.
Did you see that?
On their way home, Buck notices townsfolk joyfully reading their mail. He finally understands the purpose of a sled dog in his own calling. In the days that follow, Buck leads the team to deliver mail early every time, probably at the front as people cheer him on. But the good times don't last. With new technology rising, telegraphs replace letters, and the sled team becomes obsolete. Buck's owner, needing income, takes another job and reluctantly sells Buck to a gold prospector. To save money, this prospector barely feeds the dogs and forces them to pull loads many times heavier than before, pushing them to utter exhaustion. One golden retriever collapses and slips down the slope, but Buck digs in and holds steady, preventing a deadly chain reaction. The prospector, instead of understanding, accuses the dogs of slacking and beats them with his whip. Wanting to shield his companions, Buck struggles forward with all he has left. When he finally drags the load to the top, he collapses. Seeing that Buck can no longer work, the man immediately pulls out a gun and aims it at Buck's helpless body.
Hey! River ice is gonna break up any minute, you
Good. Fortunately, an old man nearby couldn't stand by any longer. He stepped forward and shoved the prospector aside, eventually taking in the unconscious Buck. The other dogs, however, were taken away by the prospector. Days later, Buck woke up and found himself inside the old man's cabin. He understood that this man had saved his life, but when he made his way to the door, he saw that the melting glaciers had flooded the route the prospector had planned to take, and the fate of those other dogs looked grim. Heartbroken, Buck let out a mournful howl toward the sky. What he didn't know was that his companions had actually survived. One day, the old man went to a tavern for a drink and happened to run into the prospector. The moment the prospector spotted him, he threw a punch. It turned out that after the old man had taken Buck, all the other dogs had run off too, delaying the prospector's hunt for gold. Furious, he attacked the old man. Luckily, Buck arrived just in time to save him. From then on, Buck stayed by the old man's side. Having lost his son years ago, the old man often drank alone to drown his sorrows. Watching him down glass after glass, Buck worried about his health, so he deliberately knocked over the glass, and while the old man was cleaning up the mess, Buck grabbed the whole bottle in his mouth and carried it off.
Hey, Buck! Now what are you gonna, huh?
Buck buried the entire bottle deep in the snow. When the old man came out looking for his drink, Buck sat there in the snow with an innocent look on his face, refusing to budge an inch. The old man had no choice but to give up.
This was his birthday.
As it turned out, that day was his son's birthday. He had always taught his boy not to take unnecessary risks, but his adventure-loving son had lost his life doing exactly that, leaving the old man alone in the world. After hearing his story, Buck moved closer and sat beside him. Man and dog leaned against each other under the starry sky, like a living painting. The next morning, the old man pulled out a map. His son had been obsessed with a legend about a golden river at the edge of the map, a place said to be covered in gold. Now, with Buck by his side, the old man decided to take a chance and fulfill his son's dream. So they set off in a small boat, gliding through streams teeming with fish. By day, flocks of birds guided their way. By night, fireflies lit up the darkness. Finally, they reached the end of the map. There was no gold scattered everywhere, but they had found something better, a place far from the noise of the city. The old man decided to stay. Then one day, while bathing in the river, he reached down and pulled up a nugget of gold. The legendary Golden River was actually real. Seeing this, Buck stuck his rear end up in the air and started searching too. Although he found a pretty big chunk, the old man explained that only this color meant gold, but dogs can only see in black and white. The very next moment, Buck found a fist-sized gold nugget, but when the old man didn't react, Buck assumed it was just another rock and tossed it back into the water. He kept searching until he found one that looked the same size, then proudly brought it to the old man, his face beaming as he waited for praise. Just then, Buck caught a glimpse of a white figure flashing in the distance. Curious, he chased after it, but when he caught up, he froze. It was a beautiful female snow wolf. The wolf circled around Buck, studying him with wide eyes. Buck stood there nervously, rooted to the spot. He tried greeting her the way humans do, but it only startled her, and she turned and left. Their first encounter ended just like that, and Buck lowered his head in disappointment. Back home, Buck seemed distracted, his mind filled with images of the snow wolf. It was his first time feeling this way, and he had no idea how to pursue her, so he just quietly followed her around. But the wolf showed nothing but disdain, continuing to hunt wild boar alongside the old alpha. Just as the alpha was about to strike, he slipped and fell into the river. Luckily, a dead log caught him before he tumbled over the cliff. While the pack stood helplessly by, Buck suddenly leaped from behind and landed next to the log. When he tried to pull it up, a branch snapped off, so Buck simply hoisted the entire log onto his shoulders and hauled the alpha to safety with all his strength. Panting heavily, Buck's bravery and quick thinking won over the snow wolf, and the entire pack officially accepted him as one of their own. Although Buck now lived with the snow wolf, he never forgot the old man. He often brought him wild pheasants or fish. Watching Buck thrive happily among the wolves, the old man knew Buck had found where he belonged, but he wasn't sure where his own place was anymore. Eventually, the old man decided to return to the human world that was where he truly belonged. Before leaving, he tossed the gold he had found back into the river, keeping only enough to get by. When Buck learned the old man was leaving, he felt torn, unsure whether to follow him back.
No, I'm not asking you to come with me, Buck. You got something here. Something important. Hang on to it. I'm leaving in the morning. Come say bye.
But that very night, the prospector showed up. He had discovered the map the old man left behind, and the two men got into a struggle. The old man was no match for the younger prospector, and soon took a bullet to the stomach. He pulled out all the gold from his pockets and handed it over. But the prospector still wasn't satisfied. He demanded to know the location of the Golden River. The next moment, Buck came charging in. He lunged and knocked the rifle from the man's hands, then bared his fangs as he advanced. The prospector pulled out the same stick he had once used to beat Buck. Buck instinctively flinched, but when the man swung the stick down, Buck caught it in his jaws. He had conquered his fear. Without hesitation, Buck grabbed the man and hurled him into the flames. As the cabin collapsed, the prospector paid the price for his greed. Buck then walked over to the old man and placed the photo of his son in front of him. He lifted the old man with his body, urging him to hold on and keep living. In the film's final moments, the old man returned to the human world and wrote Buck's story into a book. Time passed, and Buck became the new alpha of the wilderness. He even had pups of his own. He led his pack across the open plains, running wild and free. In the end, Buck completed his transformation from a pampered pet to a true king.